Oh, yeah. Welcome, everybody, to FMA Discussion. This is episode 255, and today we're kicking off the AI theme part 3. And today's guest will be Maestro Arnold Narzo. We got Guro Doran and Guro Viko. So again, this is going to be part 3. So the whole goal of this episodes are to bring more exposure to KI, and at the end, hopefully, unity among the sanctions that we can all work together for a common goal and all that. So hopefully, upon the conclusion of all this series, hopefully we can reach that and get around a round table per se and hash things out if they need be, or just collectively start to work together. So that's the goal here. But I'm going to be bringing the guest up now. All right.
Sorry.
Welcome, guys. Thank you for. Oh, they must have had a glitch. They definitely had a glitch. Well, welcome to you. Here they're back. Guro Viko in North Carolina.
Sorry.
That's all right. No worries. No worries. And welcome, Maestro Arnold and Guro Doran. I want to thank all you guys for coming on. I appreciate it. You know.
Thanks for having us again.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
yeah,
you.
no worries.
Thank you.
Glad to do it. Glad to do it. So, and also, folks that are watching, we got demos. So about 3/4 of the way in, these guys are going to be performing some demos. I'm basically just going to be calling things out, and they're just going to do them. So we're going to kick all right off. So before we just kind of jump into stuff, one thing I want to know, so this is all for a question for all you guys. What led you guys to KI?
What led you to
start with the oldest.
Okay.
The oldest ako, no.
Who is the
Oldest, sabi nga eh, I'm the youngest.
Me. So me, ever since I like sports, as what I said in the first interview, when I was young, uh, I was born in Manila, but I grew up in Cebu. So my first love was martial arts and sports, martial arts and basketball. So one day I saw my neighbor swinging stick. So I was amazed, like, oh wow, what's that? So I asked the guy. He said, "What's that?" He said, "12 pares." So that comes to my mind. Oh, that's holding stick, swinging sticks is 12 pares. So when I went to Manila, it happens that one Sunday, my friends brought me to Luneta for a jog. I found out there's a lots of martial artists in Luneta. Uh, so next Sunday, I went back to Luneta and watched those martial artists. There's a group of boxers. There's a karate, and then there are sticks practitioners. So I like, oh, there's a lots of those pares here. So I watched one by one until I reached the group of illustration mo. Then I was amazed when the movie, like, oh wow, this is a real one. So because the first group, I like tick tack so noise tick tack. And then next group is this, like, they're doing karate with a stick, like, oh, karate with a stick. So at the illustration mo, I saw them like they're holding a bolos and then splashing and slashing. So like I like this one. So that's the next Sunday. That's the time that I started asking the guy there, like, what are you doing? Like, this is Screama. Oh, okay. So the real name of this is Screama, and then the name of the system is like Illustration mo. So that's how I joined Illustration mo.
All right. So, Guru and folks, we got folks already watching. We got Eric O'Brien from Naples, Florida, Guru Brandon, and we got, I'm assuming, relative of our Leonard John Narzo. Folks, yes, if you're watching, please tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button. So, Guru Duran, what led you to KI?
What led me to KI? Well, when I joined the Bakbakan, so the group of Master Tupper, Ricketts, very very early on, 1986 is when he started us. with stick fighting and blades. And first, he introduced me to Master Edgar Sulite. So we were
I'm
doing
sorry,
a lot.
excuse me, Doran. Can you
Yes.
slide over? They can't see your face.
Here?
There we go. There we go. There we go.
There?
There we
Here.
go. Sorry. There we go.
Here. Oh, where?
No, you're perfect. You're
Okay.
perfect.
We're
Right
just
there,
gonna
perfect.
move the camera. There?
You're good. Yeah, as long as a little more over.
Here?
Perfect. Perfect.
Close like that. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so now. You can see now. Yeah. So Master Tupper introduced me first to Master Edgar Sulite. And then because if you know Master Tupper, he was very, very heavy into sparring. So sparring, and he would always ask us, every Sunday to go with him to Luneta and meet his teacher. So that's when, at that time, I didn't know, the difference from this style and that style. I just trusted Master Tupper, and I said, okay, let's go. So we would go with him to Luneta, and then Grandmaster Illustrissimo was there, and then that's when we met, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Awesome. No, that's good. So, Guro Viko, I know you didn't actually meet him. You were staring at him from afar, and when you were younger. And I think that if I recollect the story correctly, that's at a festival or something. You were watching him from afar.
Yeah. So that's how I was introduced. I mean, I started with training with Master Tupper in Bakbakan since 1992 or 1993, on the cusp of that, and a lot of empty hands. But then, like what Doran said, or Guru Doran said, that we'd go to Luneta to prepare for some festivals, and I would just, at that time, I was a sophomore, or I think, sophomore junior in high school, and wasn't really into, didn't know who's who at the time, but I just remember the old man, and everyone was centered around him. Obviously, I knew his name and what he taught, but then, not outside of Luneta, Master Tupper and Master Tony would be teaching us KI as well. But that's the introduction around that time, about early 90s.
So back to Maestro Arnold and Doran. You guys said other experience in martial arts or what have you, exposure. When you first touched hands with him or saw him from afar, what immediately radiated about him that you saw just something that was incredible, special, or just the immediate difference? Maybe his persona, his presence, his aura about him. What was it?
Si Tatang. Ano yung parang special sa kanya na parang nakita mo, uy. Yun.
For me, when I met Tatang, he was already on his 90s, 93, something like that, because that was the year I joined Illustrissimo. So I had a doubt if he can still move at that age because he's old. But one time when he showed some movement, I was amazed, like, oh wow, he's still so fast. So every time you try to attack, he's always have an answer, like, oh well, he can move that way at this age, so I can move too because I am young. So that's how I say that. That's my impression that I want to learn this. Yeah, this guy is also, I want to learn this kind of martial arts.
Guro Doran.
Yeah. Well, basically the same thing, because when we met Grandmaster Illustrissimo, he was already up there in age, but when he moves, it's like, oh my God, well, this guy's got some something special going on. It's so fast, and he doesn't care like how young you are. He'll hit you. Like sorry. He'll hit you, and it was hard to learn. I mean, not hard to learn. It's hard because it was painful. Like what Master Tupper was asked a question. How was it learning from Tatang? His answer was painful
Yeah, I
because he'll
remember
really get
seeing
hit.
that.
You
Yeah,
know,
I remember that.
he'll really get hit, and he's so fast. And at that age, it's like, wow. If I ever live to that age, I want to be like this guy.
Mm.
I mean, incredible. But it's weird. Like from what I remember, when he wasn't holding a stick or a blade, when he was just sitting down or something, he'll just be, he will look his age and he will move like his age. But when you give him a weapon, he'll like
Mm.
it's like he'll come to life. It's like he'll get energy from the weapon, and then he'll stand up straight, and then he'll be so fast. It's like wow,
Wow,
awesome.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow, wow. So, Guru Viko, I know you didn't never got a chance to move with him and all that, but did you get to see him move?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything what Doran and Arnold said, exactly that, and and so they described him down exactly what I noticed as well. But one thing I also noticed is that he was very relaxed. He wasn't unlike a lot of some of the
Yes.
guys who were anything. He
Yes.
was just really relaxed and was never frustrated. I think in Tagalog, hindi siya gigil. He wasn't
Yes.
gigil.
Yes.
He wasn't frustrated. He was so relaxed, and he had that stare, you get hurt because he doesn't matter who you are. He just kind of just saw past you, and if
Right
you
through
get hit,
you.
you get hit.
You're
Yeah.
just a body. You're
You're,
just a
you're,
body.
you're just another sacrifice.
You're just another meat bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, wow, wow. So, all right. So back to Coach Arnold. So when you moved, like, when you were moving them, I know, he was up there in age and all that. Like, what did you notice, or like, what stood out as far as his approach?
Approach to like approach to teaching or
All the above.
approach to
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
approach to teaching. Wala, hindi naman nagtuturo yung tatang.
Uh, I never seen Tatang teaching like what like Mantone did and what we did. When I saw Tata and Loneta, you have to ask him, and then he answers your question. He said, "Tang, how can you defend this one?" He answers your question. And if you don't have question anymore, then he's sitting down on the side.
He would just okay. So
Sitting back.
basically, he would sit. And so if you had a general question about a defense or an attack, then he would gladly get up and kind of
Yeah,
demonstrate or show. Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
you don't you can even don't joke Tata when you say, "Tang, let's spar." You just stand up and pick up the stick and hit you right away. Don't ever joke Tata. Let's spar.
There's no setup. There's no setup like ready, go. No. Oh, you want to spar? Bang.
Oh, he just so so Duran, Duran, did you get a chance? Same question for you. Like, I know you're young and all that, but I mean, like,
Thank
his
you.
approach was the same approach. You kind of had to ask him, or you witnessed other people asking him for a particular
Actually,
thing?
well, for me, I was always shy. I was always shy to ask Tatang anything. So it would be always Master Tupper. It would always be Master Tupper to say, go up to Tatang and show him something. Strike him and see what he does, and take note of what he does when you strike him. So and then he'll introduce us. Tang, this is my student or whatever. Doran. Can you show him something? And then he'll say, do something. So you have to do something, and then
Your list of
then he
something.
then he's gonna react
Okay.
like that.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Wow. 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 So reflecting back, I mean, Guru Viko, reflecting back on, I mean, in your opinion, like before we get into, the different sanctions and the similarities and differences and all that, but like, what do you think in your opinion? I'm going to ask you guys all this. What do you think it made him so special? Was it a combination of things, or what do you think?
It was a combination of things, but one of the things that I know that stood out, besides everything about the movement that everyone described, is he doesn't talk a lot, very quiet. So,
Let's see.
he's a man of a few words. People would talk about, you hear about his history and his reputation, but when you meet him, he doesn't display that reputation in front of you.
Mm.
And so that's what stuck out. And then the other thing is just the fact that the respect that other masters had towards him was quite unique. It was quite unique to the point that there was a reverence, and not because he demanded, asked for it. It actually came about because of his reputation. But again, the one thing that really was very different, was really the movement. Like you can't not emphasize that. Because of when you see his demeanor, just relaxed, his hands are down, because he's a little older. But when he moves so fast, and there was again just a simplicity of movement, and there was no distinction between whether it was sparring or if it was really trying to hit you. But those are the differences that I saw, right? And in fact, besides that, also his height, he really stood out because he was quite tall.
Long arms too, huh? It seemed like
Amazing long arms, big hands, long
yeah, just like almost like physically just
Thank you.
made for this. You know what I mean? Created for this. Tall, long arms.
That's why. Sorry, just to add on to what Viko said. There are a lot of moves that only Tatang can do because of how long his arms are. Like he'll reach you because his arms are so long.
Yeah,
And if you try to do it,
yeah.
you're like, oh, it's not it's not quite the same.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
that totally makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
due to his length. Yeah, absolutely. So, Guru Doran, in your opinion, all that. I mean, like, what do you think? Anything maybe perhaps Guru be going to touch upon as far as what made him so special?
What made him so special? I think. Oh, that's a lot. I don't know how to say it. Like, he had so much to show, but he'll only show it if you ask. If he trusts you, if you're a student, per se of him, and I'm sure. I don't know if I'm answering this the right way. Like he has so much to show, and all of it is like based on experience. There's a lot of people do, like they make up, their own fantastic, techniques,
Mm.
and then they'll try to argue, this will work, but the technique of Tatang is so simple, and he'll show you, like he'll show it to you how it works. So for me, like what makes him special is it's so simple. I mean, it's simple yet complicated because you have to learn it and you have to go through all the complications just to learn a simple thing. But for him, it's like that. He knows exactly what to do, exactly when, where, like the distance. I mean, it's like it's all there already.
Yeah, like just a
I
cute
mean, I don't know.
sense of range.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a cute sense of like. I mean, you guys obviously know better than me, but I'm just telling you what have I watching them on YouTube, talking to people last couple of decades, just a cute sense of range and be able to find a hole.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, he can find the opening. He'll be able to intercept without even thinking.
Yeah, like it was almost just an innate quality.
Yeah,
it's instinctive. Bam.
And all of that comes from his experience.
Yeah, which I keep hearing his experience, like what he experienced. And yeah, wow. Coach Arnold, same question. Like anything these guys didn't touch upon?
For me, what makes him special was he never criticized another style. He never. He said there's no such thing as a good technique and bad technique. He always say as long as it hits, that's a good technique. If you miss, then that's a bad technique. So that's for me. That make him special. He never criticizes. He never said that. Oh, you're not doing right. That's wrong. He let you before because there's a lots of teachers, grandmasters and tools visited Tatang studies at Luneta. And then during demonstration in front of Tatang, Tatang never criticizes. If he asked Tatang, Tatang, this is right. This Tatang said, if you hit your opponent, then that's right. If you miss, then that's bad. So what is the best defense? The one that your opponent cannot hit you. So that's the best defense. So yeah, for me that's makes special for him because some others they always like, oh, it doesn't happen, blah blah blah. Let's not talk. Tatang, he's a silent guy. He don't talk too much. He moves lots, but a less talker.
Right, right. No, no, no. Oh. So then, um, this came up in the kind of the two previous episodes, and I thought it was worth mentioning and all that. I mean, there's no way, Guro Doran, you just kind of touched upon this. Like, there's no way to truly emulate him. I mean, and not that one should, I guess, even bother putting energy to even do that. Guru Viko, what do you say on that? Should we? I mean, so while wasting time trying to emulate him, what should we, in fact, try to do as far as what to model from him? What say you on that?
Yeah, it's like saying, it's like asking somebody to go through the same experience as he did. Can you do that? Can you really, get on a boat and you're going to the States and then end up in Pulo? Can you end up becoming a seaman and getting challenged while you're traveling? To emulate him, it's impossible to run through the experiences he did. That's what built his movement and his style, so to speak. But what you can do definitely is learn the concepts and move as close as to how he does when he finds those openings and those lines. KI has foundational aspects to it, and a lot of it is safety aspects where you place your hands, keeping the edge always facing the opponent, protecting, blocking with the flat part of the blade, not watching your stance, your elbow in, staying narrow, and finding the lines, and always being either protecting your body, your legs, based on where you're placing your body and which leg is in front. Those are the real aspects you have to try to emulate in that sense, right? But can you extend your arms as long as his is? You can, right? Can you grow extra 6 inches or lower yourself extra 6 inches to get the same height? No, you can't, right? So in that aspect, of course you cannot emulate him in that sense. But but I'll tell you what, and the guys and my brothers here we know that if someone was moving and he did KI and we just saw a silhouette of that, we'll know it's KI.
Yeah.
No, it's a definitely distinct
flavor.
flavor.
Doesn't matter how tall or how high you are or how long your arms are.
Yeah.
We can feel that's KI movement, especially when the person's being fed, because with the reaction and the speed and where the blade's moving and where his left hand is moving, and how the live hand is moving and where his footwork is, we'll know it's KI. That's just the only way to do it.
Yeah, to me, right. It's like every system kind of has a distinct flavor that you can pick up on. Yeah, for sure. And obviously KI has that. So, Coach Arnold, so just again, we can't emulate him and all that, not just due to physical body type and his length and his height. But still, though, what should a student or teachers try to extract from him, even though there's no point in trying to emulate him and what he was capable of?
Yeah. First of all, Tatang is Tatang. Nobody can claim or nobody can say that my movement is the real one. My movement is original. This is Tatang. Tatang is Tatang. So for me, when I teach him, we always apply the principles of the technique. The principles of illustration, especially coming from his kasabihan. So he's saying, so he has a saying when it comes to fighting. So kasabihan. So like, for example, basyuhin mo ang taga ng kalaban at tumaga ka sa tamang distansya. So he said like you have to empty the attack of the opponent and then you have to find out your perfect distance when you cut. So there's the extra movement. So you always bridging the gap. So one of the principles of the Tatang's fighting. So I apply those principles when I teach because we cannot copy Tatang because as we talked before, Tatang has a long arm. So Master Tony, Master Tony teaches the way Master Tony teaches under his KIRO, which is we KIRO under lineage of Master Tony Diego. Okay, so we said like, okay, this is Tatang's distance, but this is not ours. Okay, so our long range may be medium range with Tatang, our medium range may be close range. So Tatang has a long arms. So so this is we have to adjust to our distance. Okay, so this is our long range. So we play with the long range of your reach. So hit the target. Don't try to. Oh, this is the distance of Tata. Perfect distance. I should be parried. So
It's like you're forcing the
yeah,
technique.
they're forcing to apply the technique. So when I apply to it, some that's why some other teachers they're leaning forward because they try to copy the distance of Tatang to say this is how the old man.
Right.
So in the system of Master Tony, okay, this is your reach, play with your reach. This is your medium distance. This is how you do it. This is your close range. This is your rest of your close range. Play with your close range. So this is how I teach. How Master Tony teaches us his student, then we apply it to our student now.
No, I think that, wow, well said by you, bravo. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, why you gotta try to force somebody that doesn't have the length or the height to freaking try to make something work to put themselves in jeopardy of getting hit. That's that was well said. Thank you. Guro, Doran, anything you want to piggyback off what these guys said about that?
Yeah, so like what Coach Arnold said, no one, Tatang is Tatang. There's he would say to Master Tony, ako si Tonyo, ikaw si Tony. That means, I'm Tatang, you're Tony. So don't, just in that sentence alone, I'm sure he also said it to Master Tupper. Ako si Tatang, ikaw si Tupper. Like, he will recognize that you're not him. Meaning, you will never, I mean, you could move like him, but don't try to copy. You have to understand the principle and the concept of the movement.
Right.
So you can execute the technique to your capacity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Because
I do.
he'll do it his way, and then Mang Tony will do it his way. Master Tupper will do it his way. Master Romy will do it his way. Master Yuli will do it his way. But they're all doing the same technique based on the same concept, based on the same principle, but their understanding and their execution of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Absolutely. It absolutely does make sense.
And I'll add to that, right? So it actually that plays to the arts very situational. Can I have some?
I know.
It's
too early for us.
It plays to the idea of the adoption or the situational part of the art. It's very unique. It's very the movement that you have. It's very situational, right? So, the brothers were talking about, you try not to emulate him as if you had long arms. But what if you were fighting someone shorter than you, with shorter arms than you? Then there's your opportunity to kind of do what Tatang's doing, right? So it all depends on who you're fighting, what's going on, and what angle's coming in, what foot is in front. How does he attack? Does he pull back before he attacks? It's so you move based on what is actually going on at that moment in time, both with the distance, the environment, the person, the guy's weapon, the guy's height, the guy's skill level, where you are, where your hands are. I mean, all of that comes into play in deciding what to do next.
Okay. So then, with this being said, it's then with regards to the 5 pillars and the very other notable seniors, whether they were coined pillars or not, then it's fair to say that once it left GM, right at that point, whether it was mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s, it was, I mean, the purest of the form or was gone. Is that fair?
I think that's fair
Okay. All
because
right. Yeah, go ahead.
for me, I mean, because they learned from the grandmaster, uh, and how they learn and how they understand is based on themselves. So what they teach is based on their own understanding, and their execution will follow that as well. So the pure Illustrissimo, that's only Tatang, you know, for me. And I don't think that that's disrespectful to any of our teachers or any of the masters who um who have studied under Tatang or who are teaching, because I think they're actually doing him a service by spreading his art their own way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Because if they try to copy, but they don't really do it the right way, I think they're doing him a disservice. Because they're not,
Great.
I'd rather do something that I understand based on something that I learned, and hopefully I learned it well, so I can, pass it on. And I say I learned this from, this is what I understood of it, like that, you know. But for me, there's a few people that really understood Tatang, you know, and also I think there are more than five pillars. You know, there's more than five
Yeah,
pillars.
I,
You
I
know, I
that's a
mean,
whole nother
Definitely more.
pillars.
no,
That's a whole
because I mean,
nother.
of course, we respect the five pillars,
Yeah.
but it just so happened that they're not in that group, because there's Mang Romy, Mang Norman,
Yeah.
Mang Martin,
Martin.
Shok, Lolo Shok. There's so many notable Illustrissimo
Mm,
instructors, and these people also learn from Tatang.
sure.
It just so happens that they're not the five pillars. I think the five pillars are because they spread the art of Illustrissimo abroad, and they really pushed
That's
to
what I
spread
heard. They really tried
Illustrissimo.
to promote it,
Yeah, yeah,
and because of that effort,
yeah,
hence the coining of the five. But much to
yeah,
your point, I totally agree with you, Guru Duran. Like there were, I mean, like Matt, like for instance, Maestro Norman. I
yeah.
mean,
Master Norman
that
was
guy.
the roommate of Tatang. Di ba roommate ni Tatang yun? Or something? Sa alagad ni Tatang yun. Yun.
Adapted.
Yeah, or something.
Adapted.
Yeah.
Sana Tatak.
So, I mean, he knows a lot. That guy knows a lot. So, but of
Sure.
course, he's quiet. You know,
Yeah, was in Canada.
yeah, he's in Canada. I mean, he has his own group, and we respect all the Illustrissimo groups, because actually, I'm jealous because they got to learn longer than us. You know?
Mm, mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Sorry.
well said. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Coach Arnold, same thing. Like, I mean, obviously, the moment it left him, as far as purity and what have you, the moment it went to the other hands, whether they were pillars or seniors, I mean, the purity was gone. I mean, correct?
Yeah, wala nang pure Illustrissimo.
Yeah, yeah. For me, when you see illustration mo, as long as you apply the principles of illustration fighting system, I can say your illustration mo. When you say pure, I don't think there's pure, because what the Guru said, Tatang is the only
Agreed.
pure illustration mo.
The movements might be the same.
Yeah.
There might be like subtle differences, but you can tell, like, oh, this guy's doing like Estrella, or this guy's doing Fraile, or
Mm,
something like that. So you can tell, and those are known like Illustrissimo techniques.
As long as the mother technique is still there.
Yeah,
yeah.
No matter what the execution comes out, as long as the mother, like Pluma. Okay, this is Pluma.
yes.
Okay, so this is illustration of Pluma. But this should show
How
or
to use
apply
it.
the Pluma in a situation, not just I know
Yeah.
Pluma.
I know
So
Pluma,
when the hand
They
is
know
here,
that.
the hand is there. I know Pluma.
but they don't know how to use it,
Yeah.
or they don't know how
Yeah,
to
they'll
explain it,
impart it, and I got
or
you.
they'll only know up to like
Yeah.
maybe one or two steps after, but they won't know the rest
Yes. Yeah.
of it.
So this is it's not about forms and numbering.
Duran, you're out of the
Everything
camera
just
again.
comes out for a situation. All the counter techniques and this is more you apply because it needs in the situation, not just I know Friday, I know Australia. But
That's
you
only
have
one. That's
yeah.
only one. What if this? What if that? What if that? So you
Mm.
know your instructor is a real. If he knows his stuff when it comes to Lississimo, if he could answer your questions, and if he could show all the variations of that one technique, because
Okay,
it's not just because a lot of instructors they say, "Oh, I studied with Tatang, I studied with Tupper, I studied with Tony, I studied with Yuli, blah blah blah." But how long did they really? And did they really understand? Because maybe they did study, yes, but maybe they know only this.
Mm.
After this, you do that. After that, and then that. Maybe they think, "Oh, that's it." But no,
Yeah.
there's so much more.
Okay.
So much more.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and the movement will show if you know the so much more. If you know the only this, the movement will show also.
Okay.
So the movement will show how much you know.
Okay. Duran, you're
If
kind of
that
out of the
makes
picture
sense.
again.
If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Yeah, there we go. Better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So Guru Viko, same thing.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. You know, I think you probably would have started to experience this, Dean. You know, part of Illustrissimo is, you know, Master Tupper said, and even Master Tony, you can learn all the signature techniques in 3 months. This is Estrella, this is Ba, this is Bagsak. That's it. You can the movement, huh? But part of the real tough part of understanding Illustrissimo is imparting to the student or learning every situation that's right to when to make that move.
Mm.
And when you say situation, that's a big description.
No, that's a broad,
very
right? Trajectory. I mean, where you,
Situation is in many different ways: distance, size of the opponent, where your hand is, where his hand is, right? The shoulders in front of the left shoulders, and which shoulder is in front. If you're to the left or to the right, right? If you just finish an attack and you happen to be open, or you go back to fighting for him, those are all. That situation encompasses all that. When I say that, that's the part of learning that takes a very long time.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. No. Well said by all of you guys. So we're gonna jump into, since we got. I mean, for those who are watching, we have Guru Viko and Guru Doran both did spend time with GM Tony and GM Ricketts. So now we're going to get into both sanctions, similarities, differences, and a little talk on it. On the both of the Grandmasters. So, Coach Arnold, what can you tell, GM Tony, like his interpretation of KI, what did he stress, to you, the students, and all that?
What, Dean? Sorry again. Sorry.
No. So we're gonna segue into your guys' teachers and the similar difference between the two systems. So the first question is, as far as GM Tony, what could you say about his interpretation of KI and what he stressed or tried to impart in his students?
Ano yung parang interpretation ni Mang Tony sa mga pinagdala?
Okay.
Yung signature niya.
Master Tony likes in one technique he showed lots of variations. He said like, okay, this is first he showed you the original movement of the guys. Like this is how the old man, like for example again with the pluma vertical. Okay, pluma vertical. So Tatang is so fast at doing pluma vertical. Okay, so this is pluma, and your hand is here. The attack is coming. You don't need to finish the whole thing just to copy Tatang. He said Basenta is here. Then because it teaches you defenses, like the hand is here, attack is coming low. Then there's a salok. So after pluma, then you continue to the salok as your defense because the attack is coming back. So his interpretation of KI is everything is what he explained is okay. This is your hand here, so no need for you to bring it here because this is what you see in YouTube just to say, oh, I know Illustrissimo. So
yeah.
He's not forcing to apply, oh, I know the hand is there. For example, the attack is angulo from Sarada. So you don't have to force to apply. Oh, this is Friday because this is I understand. So the position of this hand and the attack is coming from Sarada, hitting to my temple. So the closest defense is the Cruzada. So Master Tonai always told us that you have to use your defenses or apply the defense to the nearest position of your hand where the attack comes from. So that is his interpretations.
Okay. Plus, he seemed like he had fast hands. You know, I mean, just
You don't need to be fast if you are in the right position.
that's true too. I mean, if you're there already, I mean, yeah. You know,
It's about the timing, not really about speed.
Yeah. So
About
what's
the timing.
so same question, Guru Doran, on GM Tony. Like, anything that you perhaps Coach Arnold didn't touch upon, as far as what he tried to instill in his students, his interpretation?
For me, what I remember about Mang Tony, just to add on what Coach Arnold said, Mang Tony would always say, like, wherever your hand is, there's always an attack. There's always a counter. Wherever your hand is. Don't move your hand this way or that way. Wherever it is at that moment, you should be able to do something. You should be able to answer a question. For example, the attack is the question. What you're going to do is the answer. And it should come from where your hand is.
Okay.
So you only get to do that if you understand distance, range, and all the techniques. And also what I saw from him was he'll always hit the unexpected target. What do I mean? So unexpected target, like for example, recta buka. Have you heard of that, recta buka? So recta buka is
going direct,
going like this, right? So like that. So you you stop and then you cut from an attack that comes, let's say angle 1, that. So recta buka. And then the follow up from that, the obvious follow up from that is another attack like this, let's say. And if you attack him the same way, you're both going to get hit. Mang Tony will do a recta buka and then like an abanico to the attacker's arm instead of the head. So that's like unexpected. So he'll get the secondary attack as well.
Okay.
Does that
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, well said. Absolutely. Both of you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guru Viko?
I mean, it's exactly what the gentleman said, but it's he'll have there's an answer, you do have to answer whatever the question's coming. But the thing is also, one thing is, it's he helps you open up other things that you don't actually see that's open.
Yes.
Because you can get a fixation. So in short, don't have a favorite strike. Everyone has a favorite strike, and they'll force that strike, or they'll force that movement because that's their favorite strike. But it's not always the same situation, and so that's where you can get hurt, right? And also one thing is that also Master Tony also emphasizes that be mindful of if the weapon hand is still alive, because you could be hitting him directly, right? Maybe causing a distraction, but be mindful that you also did hit his hand and he's still holding his weapon. The opponent is, so that's still going to come at you at some point. So the second follow-up be the hand again. But sometimes when you attack, you're already disarming him, or at least injuring the weapon hand, and therefore not really have to be too concerned about it coming back. And then you can have something else to follow up. But these are very situational situation. I mean, context, right? Just to make that. But yeah, hit the closest target. Be mindful of the hand still being alive, because adrenaline could be coming at you or still pumping. So you could still get hurt, but he could still come again, right? And don't have a favorite, right? Don't have a favorite. There are go-tos just for like the oh shit moment. There's a go-to, but don't have a favorite strike. Don't force it.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Like, I think I'm going to be honest. Like, I've been guilty of that because something I have a favorite, and you try to instill it when you shouldn't have, just because it was your favorite, and it comes back to haunt you. You know, at least me. So,
Could I add to what Guru Viko was saying, like about when you're trying to force your go-to technique. Like for me, like if I summarize that, if the only thing you're holding is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like whatever comes to you, you're gonna try to force your favorite, but sometimes it just doesn't work. You know?
yeah, yeah. I've I've been guilty. um, so let's GM. Let's switch to GM Ricketts. Tell us about him and his interpretation, Guru Viko. So GM.
I mean, it's again, like in the very beginning, like what we mentioned, every the whole generation, right, had a background, had a background in martial arts. So Master Tupper, obviously, you've heard he has a Sagasa background, which is from Doc Lenson, right, which has a mix of a lot of Shotokan karate and some kung fu. He had Mocho Kung Fu, right? Five Ancestors Fist background, right, and then the boxing background. So, and he had that. So when he would teach us, and it was a lot of empty hands first, we would get those foundational elements in place, and from there, when KI gets introduced from time to time, and then eventually became more KI, the aspects from those three or even more of those other foundations were applied into it. Not applied in the sense that it's going to change our form for KI, but some of the techniques, such as the muscle movement, keeping the elbow in, keeping your hands up like boxing, right? The power of the left hand, of the live hand in the mocho, came from there. The twisting of the hips when you strike you in KI, right?
Okay.
There are elements of Sagasa in there. There's elements of Mocho where you can kind of fortify the Illustrissimo in that sense. So that's where he emphasized, and then also the straight line attacks as well, and precision. Very precise precision. And then also when he would start from basics to when he would put the fundamentals, when he move a student from basic, intermediate to advanced, and there's really no class like that. You just happen to just go there organically. He would always just make it very simple first for the student to understand the key principles, right? Hips, straight line, right? Safety, right? Positioning of the body, footwork. I mean, the footwork, also Master footwork, but footwork and hip movement, very much emphasized by Master Tupper, and the power, Yeah.
Okay. No. Definitely the hips. Guru Doran, GM Ricketts.
Yeah. So like what Guru Viko was saying, hips, sparring, sparring, sparring. So for us during that time, like 80s, 90s, Master Tupper would, from what I experienced, would emphasize certain techniques that would for sure work in combat. According to him, like he'll make us do thousands and thousands of repetitions of, like, for example, arco. We'll do arco like 5,000 times or something like that. So when we're sparring, we're not thinking anymore, because for him, it like his focus was always the fight. How are you going to use this in a fight? So he'll pick. I mean, of course, he knew the whole curriculum and everything, but he would choose. He would choose certain combinations and certain techniques that we'll do over and over and over again. That he'll emphasize, like what Guru Viko was saying, tight, and our left hand and our live hand is not just to slap away. It's to really, it's like another attack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know. Really, like.
Yeah, it's not just, you know, It's
Yeah.
like, so it was all about what are you gonna use if you get into a fight?
Mm.
Because you could learn thousands and thousands of moves and techniques, but you'll get lost in that. So for me, Master Tuper would always focus on like straight to the point moves.
Mm.
You know, 1, 2, 3. That's it. 1, 2, 3. That's it. 1, 2, 3. That's it.
Yeah.
And this movement, and always going to the blind side.
Flanking. Okay. Okay.
Always out of the line of attack.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And to add to that, and that's exactly what would happen is if you came in, as a new student under Master Tuper, all you're learning is power strikes and the fighting techniques for fighting, and then later on you start getting into
You'll add on to
add more into okay, these are the art. This is where it starts, adding the extra bits.
Mm.
This is the martial part, and this is the art part.
Exactly. You'll separate it, and then it'll come together.
Okay. Okay. No, perfect. So let's go into Maestro Arnold. Any experience with GM Rickett when he was still in the Philippines?
I met him in Luneta. When he visited Tatang or visit Master Tony. So I observed that he loves trusting. Every time you back, there's a trust. He loves to trust at the end of the executing some techniques. It's always trust here or trust the trade or hope for a trust.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So, Guru Doran, differences and similarities of both sanctions.
Differences and similarities. I think they're more similar than different. You know.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think it's about the approach.
Yeah.
I think it's about the approach to teaching. Mang Tony, for me, from my experience, like he'll show you. He'll show if you do this, this can happen. This might happen. Then this will happen, and you can do this, and that. So many things. Master Tuper, he'll always have like a sagasa mindset. He'll always have like, once you get the opening, don't stop. Just continue.
Okay.
But you have to make the opening. Mang Tony, for me, I think he'll show all the variations of what you can do in a situation.
Mm.
So for me, it's like their mindset. Mang Tony is like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and everything will work because he'll show you how it'll work.
Okay.
That Master Tuper is like, if you make the opening, bah, 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 bah. So it's more about sagasa. It's about the combative aspect. It's about the fight. That's from what I
Yeah. No.
like in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Guru Viko, same question.
Yeah, exactly that. More similarities than there are differences. It's really the approach, right? Master Tony will be able to show you similarities would be the fighting form is the aspects will always be the same. Elbow in, right? Stay upright. Maybe one might be wider stance or shorter stance. That's just the background, right? But Master Tony will show. They all know the same thing. They have the same equal knowledge, right? It's what's presented first
Mm.
to the student. You might get this first, and then later on this with Master Tony. But Master Tony, you might get this first, but later on. But eventually, you'll all learn it, right? It's just what's emphasized in the beginning.
Okay.
What Guru Doran said, right? You'll just get the sagasa side because Master Tuper likes that, like the simple movement, find the opening, and then strike. And then don't allow for him to come back at you.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Wow. I mean, obviously they were. They obviously respect each other and got along. Pretty well. Right? They worked together, and both were located in Manila or that area. Am I correct?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. No.
They would shoot a lot of videos together. In Master Tuper's house, in the gym in Binondo, in Luneta. in the on the roof deck of Master Alex Co's
Yeah.
house before. So
Mm.
many videos, so much
Yeah,
stuff.
I know. Gosh, just treasures. All right, I'm
Yeah.
going to show this. Hopefully, the folks will see this. I know you guys weren't able. So, folks, this is you guys can watch this. This is Maestro Arnold and Bruce Ricketts. Compliments of Guru Viko sending this to me. Guru Viko, can you guys see this?
No, well, we can't see it.
Can Guru Viko, can you see it?
I can see it. It's in the lower right hand
Oh,
box.
yeah, we can see it now.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that a video? Ah, that's a video.
Yeah.
What
Wow.
Oh, it's Bruce.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's Bruce and Arnold.
Yeah,
Correct.
that
Correct.
it was in Bukidnon, Viko's place.
Yeah. So that was Maestro Arnold. That was how old were you then? You looked pretty young. How old were you?
I can tell you the year.
Oh, all right.
What's the year? Vic,
2011 by
21.
more than 10 years ago.
2000. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
31.
Coach Arnold was 21.
31. 30.
No, Bruce was 21.
30.
Bruce was
Yeah,
21.
more like Bruce was.
That's 31. And then 70. 31.
All right, folks, we're going to get into demos before we cap off with the last question. So what we talked about, Guru, Doran, I was basically just going to mention some stuff, and you guys would just kind of perform it. Does that still sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Coach Arnold wants to explain some things.
Okay, I will show you about the interpretation of Master Tony of
Oh,
KI.
please, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And then
we'll just
Guru
set
Viko,
up the camera. We'll just
Yeah, whatever works for you guys. When you guys go ahead and do it, I can lower myself. So,
okay. Just a second, huh?
all right. Demo.
All right.
Action.
Charge.
All right, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to lower South Screw Viko
Yeah.
just so they can have the whole platform.
See? Oh. No, you have to. Ano yan?
Camera is reverse.
No, ayun.
Okay.
No. Let me. Here, we can take this down. Sorry, Dean. Yeah. Can you say? Sorry. Sorry. We're just a bunch of fuck-ups here. Ang gulo natin. Grabe, ang gulo. Dean, can you see? Hello? Where are you? Is that Dean? Nawala siya. Nawala tayo. Nawala. Nawala. What are we doing? Okay. So he's just, hello? Oh, so are we just going to explain? Okay. Nag-hide lang siya. Okay. Don't hide, Dean. Come out so we can hear you. Yeah.
Late yung galaw mo. Late yung galaw dun sa...
Dean, not to come out. Dean, come out.
Then, where are you, Din?
Unhide yourself.
Late yung...
Huh?
Late yung galaw.
Where's Dean?
There, so you guys are not going to be able to,
Okay.
you guys are not going to be able to hear me on the bottom. So yeah,
Okay.
just do your thing, and I'll.
Sorry. The phone fell.
So what do you guys can show you want, or you want me to call out things?
Yeah, you need.
Okay. All right.
You see us? Can you see us, Dean?
You see
Can
it perfectly. Perfectly.
Okay.
Perfectly.
Don't hide yourself. So we can see you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is how Master Arnold is systemized on each lineage the illustration. Okay. This is the long range. Okay. Again. So this is the medium range and this is the close range. Okay. So this is the situation. Long range. Okay. Okay. So this is our guard. Now, if he attacks, the interpretation of the long range is when he extends his hand, I'm targeting the nearest part of the body. Okay, so I'm not trying hitting the head because we're hitting each other. So we're looking the nearest part. Once he extends, the nearest part is the hand. So from long range. Okay. So this is our guard position. Now it comes to medium range. Okay. So same situation, same angles of the attack. Now, if I use this from long range, if he continues the attack, the possible that he got hit. So from this position, the interpretation of Montoni in medium range, then it passes. That's the time that we use the cruzada technique from the situation. From this distance. Okay, again. Okay.
It's not like this, Dina. It's not the edge to edge.
Okay, again. So from long range, same situation. I'm not trying to force this one because it's far. Okay, so the technique applies is hitting direct to the hand. Now when it comes to medium range, then there goes the technique passes through the weapon. Now if you're in the close quarter, I'm not using the same technique because it's awkward because of the distance. This time I go a direct hit, parry, and hit. So the technique now applies a direct target, parry the left hand, there's a slash, and cut, and then hit. Okay, that's how it operates the distances of the illustration more. So we're not forcing to apply the parry from long range. I like this one in long range. We say angle to here. This is the position of the hand. If he attacks there, I go retirada and hit the weapon hand. Now if I'm medium distance here, medium distance, same angle, same situation. If I use this one, possible that also got hit. So this is the time that I use my cruzada. Okay. Now, if the distance now in a close quarter, if I use the same cruzada, I've been in an awkward position. So this time I use the recta again, using my left hand to check and slash at the same time. Okay, so different distances, different variation, different interpretations of the technique. So we're not doing the same from here, doing here, this is close, doing here, and then so if everything applies in a situation. Okay, like this one. The attack is the angulo, my hand is here. Usually you can see in YouTube, then they try to force the fry leg. Okay, because I know illustration mo, they go fry leg test. So Master said you have to find out the nearest possible defense that you can do in this position. So that's why the cruzada designed for the situation. Okay, so when you have cruzada, it's not full back cut. Everything is sent right away to the opponent. So there's no hole. There's not cut. Everything is like when I push, then I have to destroy the position of my opponent. I'm not just pushing that way because he's able to strike back. What I have to do is from this position, I have to push down the hand of the opponent so he cannot possibly strike back. And then my weapon I have to send right away. Then I'm always aligning myself in front, facing the not in front, facing the opponent, slide to the side. And then my push is facing, not because once of my toe is turning that way, my body facing that way, although my face facing that way, but my body facing that way. If this front leg pointing that way, so my body facing that way, so everything should be aligned to make sure that I'm 100% facing my opponent. So I have to move in one count motion from here, but just one. So if it tries to attack, then no extra movement, no reset of myself because I'm already in the position. Okay, from this position. Then if you attack, so I'm closing right over here. Okay, so I'm always ahead of the positioning of my weapon. Okay, so right The other one we call it Australia. Okay, this is the Australia. This is a Planchada attack. So we call it the difference between Australia. Okay. The position of the blade is not vertical because if he attacks strong, possible that it will bounce back. Okay. So a little bit diagonal. Then the way how we're not using blocking. We're not using because we're not blocking, we call it deflection. So the way I position my weapon is primera, segunda, and tercia. Okay, again. So we divide the weapon to primera, segunda, and tercia. Okay. If he attacks Planchada with a full speed, if I use primera, sweet. Okay. If I use segunda, we're 50-50. But if I apply the tertia part, so I'm strong. So I'm able to stop the attack using my tertia part against the secondary part of the weapon. Okay. So look at the position of the hand. This is usually in the YouTube they go like this. They're bending you on. There's no way that you can stop the attack from this position. So everything should be aligned, but not this way because this is edge to edge. So the weapon will biting each other. So it will be a short slant to the side so that you can slide and cut. Okay. So after the Australia, we always go with the armor vest to avoid the opponent to check my arm because if I go Planchada, he's able to check. Okay, so I'm just like from here, it's always here, going up. So I'm not forcing to attack, hit here if I'm fought. So again, this is the nearest part. So I'm always applying the nearest part. If I'm too much close, if I'm a little bit closer than here, but I'm always watching his left hand. That's why I'm not too much close because he has a left hand. Boom.
All right. Okay.
Distance. So my footwork should be sideways. I'm not going straight inside because I'm moving closer to him. So this is my distance. So again, when I apply my Australia, when I measure, still at this distance.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not too much close and not too much far. Once my leg goes inside, boom, when I measure, then I lose the distance. So I have always maintained the distance. When I say medium range, I always maintain the medium range in case it tries to punch, then I can able to parry and it's it. Okay, so very important in Master Tone system, distance is very important because he has a left hand. We're always aware of the left hand. Okay, so we're not trying to go this way, boom. And we're not go force to force. We're not, okay. Now, it doesn't mean that in this distance, we always use the engaging of weapon. We use the Australia or the defenses, engaging weapons, Australia, vertical, the cruzada, depending upon the situation and the way how he attacks. Okay, two kinds of attack. This is what you call a tight attack, just drop, and it's a wide attack when you pull back. Okay, even though I am in this distance, if he pull his weapon back, then I just drop my weapon right away. I will not waiting the sword to arrive until the Australia. So if he tries to pull his weapon, then boom. Okay, he attacks Planchada, but it's a tight attack. He just dropped. On this position, oh shit. It's like, oh shit. So I use this. So the Stella comes out because of that tight situation. So because the understanding of others, teaching KIRO, every time you see Planchada, they're applied right away the Australia. Because, this is illustration mode. No. If the attack is wide, then boom, it's a hit right away. So I got 2 hits right away before it landed. The weapon before it landed. So I'm not waiting. This weapon is a wide attack. Then I have to wait the weapon to arrive. Then boom, go. Okay? So this is the Master Tony's teaching or the lineage of the KIRO. Because we bring KIRO. Because we're under the lineage of Master Tony. Because when you see KI is the original group of our seniors. KI, direct from Tatang. So that's why we bring KIRO because we're carrying Master Tony Diego's lineage.
Okay.
Okay.
Great stuff.
Now for
the other question, what's the difference between
for the lineage of Master Tupper?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
We have a special guest.
Okay. Who's the special guest?
Tatang!
Hey everyone. So
What?
What? Who's that? I don't know who that is.
Over here. Yeah. So,
Okay. First of all, who is that guy?
okay, so we're showing one technique,
Great.
the variations of Master Topher, and then after that, variations of Master Tony.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, the mother technique still there. The combination, maybe you have some different combinations.
It's a lot more, I guess you could say, more of the initiation of everything, how we get into the blocks and things like that are still the same. But as for the follow-ups, there's certain signatures, I guess you could say, that kind of happens. Where, let's say, Tony favors a certain technique, and then like my father kind of favors a certain technique. But how we go into it, it's still similar, but it's just a lot more what they prefer in terms of follow-ups. Right?
Okay.
But in terms of how we talk about the distance, let's say, for example.
All right, I'm gonna lower myself. Here, Brandon. I'm gonna lower. I'm gonna You gotta come, baby. You surprising me like that. I'm gonna lower myself. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, you guys go at it. I'm gonna lower myself.
All right. So in terms of how the distance of how we would talk about, it's basically the same thing. You have the long range, right? You have the medium range and the close range. Basically, exactly how like Coach Arnold basically talked about. For the most part, when we talk about, let's say, long range, medium range, close range, right? So ideally, for how it was understood in terms of my dad, it was because of how the relationship of Master Tony and my dad was. It was a lot of it is very similar in terms of the detail. For example, for us, my dad always specified it was easier for him to remember is that when it's long range, if the offhand doesn't touch, that it's mostly the blade. That's long range. Medium range is more if the offhand can reach his offhand, or like his blade hand, the offhand can touch here, and that's medium range. But if it's a lot more of me being able to really get on the inside and get close to where his elbow is at, that's more close range. So it's still very similar. Explanation is, I guess you could say, somewhat slight difference, but it's still the understanding or the endpoint is still the same. So, for example, let's say interpretation of how he goes into his Australia technique. This is what you want. So let's talk about the Australia technique right here, for example, in terms of the KIRO group.
Okay, so Master Tony interprets the Australia. That's one here. So he has this thrust, the pullback hat, and then you have the bagsak, and then the arm pull. Okay. Then, isa pa. Okay. So again, so one more with one Tony. Go here. I go slides, and then thrust. Then push the hand down, and then cut the left hand to avoid the punch, and cut the leg. Okay.
Enjoy. So in terms of the interpretation of how my dad tends to do it, when it comes to the Australia, for example, as he comes in for this strike right here, because of also with my older brother's understanding when it comes to the knife and also becoming a chef and all, so a lot of it we started adopting more of, in terms of the grip, we actually add the thumb on the flat side to get that extra reinforcement, we could say. But the technique is still the same. We're still moving offset. We're not moving forward because of that offhand, but we're still keeping that range to make sure that we're still in medium range.
Yeah.
In terms of the technique here, as we come in with this Aldavis, the emphasis is always on the hips coming up, which is very similar to an uppercut, right? So a lot of it comes from boxing. So as we get into here, right, Australia, as I come over, my dad always likes to emphasize on this offhand to really extend. So as we extend here, because he favors a lot of the thrust, he would always go for the thrust first, and then if in terms of the range, he's good for the range, then he would go for the strike. But if not, if he wants to create that distance, then he would move out and go for that hand, which is basically the nearest target here. But as for the details, basically still the same as we go one strike and then up, right? So Australia, say it.
Okay, so we call it Australia from Sarada with Biasa. Okay. So again, Australia, Tony loves to do this one. This is his favorite move. Cut inside and then do some abanicos and then go with the thrust. Okay, the one to the side. So it's here. We're gonna see here. Then stop here. Then cut to the neck. Then push and then cut and then check and then
Thanks, sorry.
transfer. Okay. So another form of Australia. The attack is coming here. Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to say.
Yeah. Pa, it's here. Pa, oh, boom. Okay, then again, start to boom, then cut, then flash, boom, then right. So the hand, the left hand is always here. In case it strikes back, then there's a check. Now it happens if my hand, instead of thrust, is a slash follow through with the strikes back, then the left hand is always here for the check. Okay.
All right. So same technique in terms of how we get into it. So as he comes in, depending on the strike, as he's coming in with the strike here, right? So we're over here. In terms of how he gets into it, for us it's slightly different because as we come in here, as we move out, right? As we step in, my dad always favors a lot of this push. So instead of kind of just parrying into it and coming in, my dad always likes more of using the hips as he gets into it. So as that happens, the motion is still the same. Instead of us coming in this way, my dad always favors more of emphasizing this push. So it's a lot more of this way. So that if he ends up coming in, let's say up high, then we go for that thrust up here. Then you can go more of that finish, but more like kind of like just adding that little flair into it. But for the most part, as we come in here, we block, right? But ideally, the thumb, we ended up adopting more of the thumb to get that reinforcement on the flat right here. Then as we come in, push as I step off that hip, then from here turning that hip out. And if he ends up coming in, I can always cover the elbow right here. Then go for the thrust down here or upwards. Usually my dad always emphasized a lot of the thrusting part because he's always more of coming in this way. But if you looked at it, how Coach Arnold went into it, it was on the inside. For us, it was on the outside. Similar, different, but still very similar when it comes to the movement, right?
Okay, the crosada. Okay, this is crosada. So we have to clear the crosada here. Because usually here. So we have to clarify the crosada. The crosada is the attack is here. Because again, when I watch some videos, they call it sombrada. In illustration mo, Master Tony explains, if the attack is here, then this is the form of sombra. This is the form of the crosada. Okay, so if the attack is angle, if I apply sombra, the weapon landed in my hand. So when I have to hide my weapon that way. Okay, so from this position, I just like boom, slash right away, then Master Tony loves to do a baniko. This is what Doran said, he always go to the unexpected target. Because after this one, if I go it here, he's able to counter and parry. Okay, that's why Master Tony always from this position, bang, then this side to avoid the parry. Okay, so that's a cruzada. If you go sombra, this is different. From this position, this is what you say, what you saw from Tata's video. After the sombra, then you go this angle. Okay, because you cannot apply this here. If Tatang's angle going that way, ito sombra, look at the blade. So, in demonstration, lots of things happens because the attacker stops. Okay, when we feed, like, okay, you do cruzada. So when you do cruzada, I just follow through. I'm not stopping here. I'm not targeting away. I'm not targeting the right target here. So, video. Okay, so again, so I'm aiming the right target. Okay, so I'm not just stop and then I'm putting myself, I'm just putting my own self here. So practicing the right execution of the technique. Boom. So that's the cruzada, Master Tony, followed by the baniko. Okay, then the cruzada.
And then in terms of how we get into the cruzada, right? So as he's coming in here, because normally whether it's a cruzada or usually we refer to this one if it's a straight attack. It's like everybody else, right? It's more of what we call normally a reverse sombra. But ideally, as we get into the technique, if it's coming more at an angle, but cruzada, you can see you're making that cross, right? So as we step here, ideally, some students actually do the cruzada this way, then they would step.
Yeah. Or they go this way. then bring it here.
Exactly,
That's
right?
what it is.
So the key thing about this is my dad always emphasized a lot on positioning and footwork. If I block here as it's coming in, see, I'm taking the whole weight of it.
So if I read in again from that position, follow through.
He's coming down forward. So I'm going to get that cut, or he's going to get that cut. So ideally, as I'm right here in terms of the sense, as he comes in, the first thing I do is I always have to step, because a lot of the emphasis my dad would say is when I'm in left lead, my offhand is in front.
Yes.
So this is the main emphasis on the strike. Then from there, as the strike comes in, then that's when we would continue with the strike, ideally aiming for this side right here and going for that thrust. Because usually the thrust is how we would gauge the distance as we would come in. So for example, as he comes in again, moving, angling off, then thrusting. If he ends up coming up high, right? Same idea. Students tend to do this, then move. But ideally, before they move, they're already feeling that weight on here before they step. But the key thing is, as he's coming in, once I step, see, it's already up there, right? This blade right here is just there just to protect you, but the main person doing the work is usually the offhand. So as I step here, right? Then as I come into here, ideally, it either, how Master Tony would come in, he would come under, but for us, it's a lot more, as we're pushing in, we would tend to come out more of this way, and always trying to get close to where the elbow is at to grip, just in case it either comes in or comes down or comes up. And then you would either thrust forward or thrust up. Turn around because I know what happens next. Over here. So for example, at this point here, you can see as I move, right? So there's that, we would call this technique, we would always refer to this as the reverse swim grip. As I come down, notice how this offhand is already covering that elbow here. Because ideally, I'm covering his upper part. So normally I'm open down here. So fingers pointing down, covering his elbow as I'm slicing here. Then I can either go this way or just keep going into that follow. But technically, it's still the same movement. Slight different interpretation, but still very similar to how we tend to do it. Right? I think.
Awesome. That was fantastic. Bravo.
Because we can read each other the movement, like when we play the close quarter thing. And then it's the same. We're not training at the same, but we know how to move this one. Like for example, first I am the feeder.
Right. And from here I would maybe switch. Move, switch, move. See, then would switch from here. But it still works the same way because of the fact that even though we don't train a lot.
Then after that, so but this movement is more advanced because I'm the one who feed first. Then he stole the attack. Now he becomes the feeder. They don't try to stall the attack now. Then I am done as the attacker. But we're not training at the same time. That's because this is the trademark. We know each other. We know how to counter and counter us with the movements and with the
Unity.
So I guess you can say more of there's that communication happening, even though there's slight different interpretations. But once we start meeting up, there's that part where we can still communicate as we get into those details.
Yeah. Saw it. Yeah. Everybody just witnessed that. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, right on. Yeah, that was fantastic. I gotta give it to you, Guru Doran. You pulled it off.
I got you.
Some of the technique is not shown in public. Is the how to draw sword inside the scabbard. This is you want to show it or no? Yes. Don't show it. So there are some movements that you cannot see in YouTube, you cannot see Facebook.
No.
How to draw, for example, this is just formal. We will not do demonstration because this is real blades. This is real blades. Oh, that's one style.
Okay.
From this position, okay, so the sword is here. So you're gonna attack him. Then the opponent is already polished weapon. I'm done there. So one of the sword different techniques here. Yeah, attacks that way, konti. Okay, that's all.
And then ito. So and then on the in terms of with my dad, how he gets into more of like the strikes, he would always refer to it in terms of the boxing stance. So for example, let's say over here, if I would drop this real quick, if you can see, you have the jab, you have the hook, you have the uppercut. Notice how my body moves, right? There's hip work, body work. Switch to the blade. You have the jab, you have the hook, you have the uppercut. See, it works the same way, or uppercut this way. If it was boxing, in terms of how we get into the motion, washing my right hand right here, because this is where the blade hand will be. If I'm turning this way, notice how it's hidden, meaning I can either come in with an uppercut or a hook. Works the same way this way. I can either come in with an uppercut or a hook. So a lot of the emphasis comes from the boxing background that my dad has. So because of the main foundation of boxing, once Ilustrismo got introduced to us at an early age and everything, we were able to slowly adapt to it because of the stance. Doubles in, body motion, as we get into it, works the same way. So a lot of it is more like the interpretation as to how we get into the strikes, and for example, how Master Tony would draw the sword coming from their lineage. So, and just so you guys can see in terms of the details of everything, where depending on the emphasis or things like that. Yeah.
Bravo, that was awesome.
I remember from our conversation, you wanted to ask about certain techniques, like tumbada, sampal, or kabayan, or whatever.
Oh, yeah, let's just
So
go,
they can do that.
because I do. Let me just get a time check though. Yeah,
There is no time for Dim Franco.
Dean Branco. Wait.
That was amazing, by the way. What a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, if you guys could just show quickly, because I gotta definitely get out of here like by 5 or 10. So that gives us like 50. Yeah, if you guys can show quick, then I just got a few remaining questions. Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna lower myself. Well, here. So far as how about just getting my list here. You know what? Can you guys Tumbada maybe each show like your guys' expression or interpretation of Tumbada, and then that would be neat. And how about I don't know, what do you say, Guro? Viko? Salok?
I mean,
Salok.
Just
Salok. How about Salok and Tumbada? Would that be okay?
So,
Would that be
version
right?
of Salok or Tumbada, version of Salok.
I'm gonna lower itself again.
Just
So for the KIRO, there is a family of the techniques. Okay, so Tumbada is how to fold down. So the Salok is part of the Tumbada technique families. Okay, so Tumbada, because you have to hold it down, the position of the blade. Okay, for example, okay, this is the front Tumbada. So if my hand is here, the attack is angulo. So this is the form tumba, tumba, then cut. So even this attack is coming this way, I just guide the pitch that way and tumba.
Ano yung difference niyan, tumbada versus kabayan?
Kabayan. Okay, so kabayan if the attack is wide. Yeah, that way. Okay. So still, it's the family of the tumbada because I have to put down. So I have to ride over the flat side of my the weapon of my opponent. So I'm not using the back. So I'm just using that. On this position to like then cut. Wait. So it's the same if the salo coming from that side. Okay. So this is how we apply the salo if the hand is there. Okay. I am not applying salo from high position. Because if he attacks too fast and late, there's no way that I can catch the salo. So I'm always do the salo from this position, then it's the same. So I'm just tumba, just pull down the position of the blade. At the position of the blade is planchada. Okay, it's the cut. So the position when I ride over the top, it becomes like this. You see, so it's like tumbada. You fall it down. Okay, then from this position here, just like boom, and then cut. The footwork, the proper footwork is not stepping back because I'm moving far. Okay, I'm not moving in because I meet the weapon of the opponent. So I go sideways so that I can maintain my distance. Important here is always bridging the gap. Okay, so on this, I always bridging the gap. See when I cut. Okay, proper way. Okay, this is free for the audience or for those who teaching AI. Okay, this is how they apply. Bang and then hitting here. Okay, that's for demo. If you apply, if you continue the attack, there's no way that you can cut the wrist. Okay, so where is the perfect target? So from this position, the perfect target is the bicep. Okay, it's free, $50. I'm joking. Okay, so that's the invitation of Master Tony, the tumbada. The other one is kabayan, and then the salo. Okay,
I say today. So when it comes to the tumbada, I mean, in terms of the translation, tumba, like the drop. So ideally, in terms of how it was taught to me by my dad, it's a lot more of, because as someone's coming in for in Australia, but then it comes in more of not a planchada, so it comes in more of like a V angle where it slides down, right? So ideally, if he tries to come in more of like a sliding down, if I'm here, it would actually hit my hand, right? So ideally for the tumbadas, once this is coming in here, because of their stance of the Australia, this leads to the tumbadas, right? But depending on the range of how you get into it, whether it's the hand or going straight to the neck right there, the technique is still the same. But in terms of the motion, it's basically more if you and how it was understood is that when you're doing an Australia block, but then it's not a planchada, you feel it sliding down. That's when, in terms of this motion, the offhand slightly pushes it over to get into that tumbada technique, right? The same works the same way over here. If I'm doing the reverse Australia, when I'm blocking this way, if I feel it sliding down, same idea. That tumba or like tumbada motion, right? Going into a salo. Exactly. So in terms of the differences of tumbada and salo, how we were able to understand it is that tumbada is coming more of when it's coming from top, then you bring it down because you're changing that angle. Tinumba, like you drop it, right? Same thing over here. You drop it. As for the salo over here, right? Just like how Coach Arnold explained, for us in terms of this motion, there's this one, and you go all the way up. There's one where there's also more like a modified salaf when we go into it. Right. So this one is a lot more of, besides my father, a lot more of my older brother's interpretation because of how he can reach forward with it in terms of how he extends his shoulder. So a lot of it where if it's just more of just angle here, sometimes he's already out of the way. But ideally, you're aiming more towards the shoulder area. So as I'm coming in this way, angling more out here. But in terms of motion, of course, if you kind of doing it like in full speed, you're not going to be able to get this carry. But ideally, it's a lot more of being able to extend and around that shoulder. So interpretation goes, if it's an actual salaf, we go, right? There's this one, and going straight up. And then how we tend to do it is a lot more. There's more like that fate of us going around than over here. If your hand is over here, you're able to parry it off, then by all means, go for it. Right? If not, then you can still motion to go around, but ideally it's a lot more as long as you create that distance. In terms of the kabayan technique of how we get into it, it's a lot more of, if this is the Australia right here, right? How we ended up getting into it in terms of details that were, same idea, you're riding that blade, but a lot more of as we get into it, there's that grip, and then from here, turning that hip to get into that cut. So that was more of the interpretation of how we get into the kabayan, or to ride, right? Almost similar to an Australia, but the key thing is a lot more of, if I just do it from here, gonna get in. So a lot more, you need to be able to angle off, be able to get that grip. Because my dad always had a certain tiger grip, I guess you could say, would always leave claw marks on my hand. So a lot more getting used to that feel of that tiger claw, right? So as he's coming in, there's like he's coming in this way. Then from here, you can either go into that subpal if you want, but because you're using a blade, you can either come in with an aldebus or come over. Right? But in terms of the techniques, Still the same
Yeah,
thing.
the other techniques they did.
Exactly.
It's the and how to end the technique is just a little
The
bit.
beginning is the same, the ending is different.
Exactly. Right?
No, that was
The other techniques they did. So
awesome.
the
Thank
big
you.
mom, your KI.
Oh, perfect. I'm gonna okay, I got some because I got 10 minutes left. I want to get just a couple remaining questions. So I'm gonna bring Guru Viko back up. Okay. Where's Guru Doran? Is he in the picture?
Hang on.
All right, so here's a question for all you guys. So upon completion of this series, what would be you guys would like to see come out of this? Like, what would be the best thing that could come out on completion of these KI series? Best thing for you guys that you would like to see come out of this? Here we go.
The best thing to come out of this series,
Yeah, upon completion. In other words, upon completion of my series and the last one, like, what do you hope comes out of it?
you look. What I hope comes out of this is what people define as the factions or the sanctions, right? Doesn't mean that there's separation or there is no bad blood between us. Okay. Is Russell there? Is Russell on? Nandiyan ba si Russell?
Yeah. Oh, no.
You sure, Russell? Okay. Russ, put that. Okay. And then, so there, all four of them. Okay. I want to show you. Okay. Yeah. You have, that's unity right there. There's the force. If there were sanctions, it's all there. And there's no bad blood. There is unity. Okay. And maybe the impression that there is sort of disunity is very, very particular. It's not across our entire, we're one family, okay? It's not across all KI groups. And maybe some of our elders, they have some, they have some grudges, they have some maybe passive aggressiveness to each other, but that's between them, and only they should be able to sort that out.
Doesn't mean that needs to come to the next generations, right?
Exactly. This is what you're seeing right now. There is unity in KI, and we're willing to share. And it comes to, this is another thing as well. When it comes to pure KI, more of that becomes pure the more we train together. We always hold ourselves accountable to each other.
That's a good point. The more that we can blend together and work things together, obviously that's good. Yeah, that's a good point. Can't argue that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my point. So again, to the audience, right? We're united. We have differences, as you all shown, but there is no such thing as disrespecting each other at all. We all consider as brothers. There's a language that we could all speak to each other through our movements, as it's been shown. Even if we don't train physically together a lot. And that's actually what we can thank our teachers for.
Yeah, they trained
they gave us that language to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Even
though if they did it, why can't we?
And that language is Ilustrísimo. That language is the movements of Ilustrísimo. That's the language. That's why Brandon and Coach Arnold, they can feed each other and without training it, for a long time, because we have that language which was instilled by our masters.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Guru Viko. Coach Arnold, upon completion of this series of the KI theme episodes, what do you hope that happens? The best outcome?
You should respect each other. No stabbing at the back. Be natural. Just say something in front of the people what you like. So the respect each other still intact. So like Guru Brando's team, I respect his team as he respects my team. And Roseros Park now, we're in Roseros Park. Like same with my counselor. Same with Guro Viko. We're respecting each other. So hopefully some of the other under the wings of like Master Tony, and then whoever teachers they are or came from, just respect. That's the only thing that I want, just respect.
Yeah.
No standing at the back. That's
perfect. Guru Doran, same question.
For me, like
I believe the squabbles of the past should stay in the past. If not,
Yep.
there won't be any future. Like as you can see here, all of us are friends. We're all, all our masters, all our teachers, they're like a family. Master Tupper, Master Tony, Master Yuli, Master Ray. I mean, they're all like brothers. Of course, they have their little, squabbles here and there, but they're brothers. They're like a family, just like us. His dad was like a father to me. So I'm never going to, And actually, so was Master Tony. The last words of his dad to me was, "When I'm gone, go and train with Master Tony
Mm.
because you should never stop your training." So that's what I did because I know they saw me grow up. So Master Tony was the same. Of course, I didn't spend as much time with him as Tom or Arnold, but you know, I've had my time. Like I've had my time with Brandon's dad, and it shows. Like us, all here right now. Russell is also a very long time student. I think we can interview this guy next.
Yeah, the hidden master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Open,
we're all,
open to anybody. Anybody
We're
that
all-
wants to
we respect each other. I think it's the newer generation that's the one that's starting a lot of shit. But us, we don't.
What I see is
We're drinking right now.
the students feel that they're really important, and what they say, it really matters. Like I'm going to be honest, there was a guy in FMA Discussion really irritated me, and I haven't got back to him in a private message, but just started that something just wasn't necessary. A comment he made. First of all, he was just completely wrong. Just immaturity and all that. I'm going to handle him. I'm going to message him back. But you guys all know him. Guy lives in Europe, and first name starts with an N, ends in an O, an I and C in the middle. And so we're gonna, just was uncalled for. Wasn't helpful. Wasn't suggestive. Wasn't positive.
Oh no. Sorry, Dean. Pero to his defense, because he's also our brother. To his defense, he's very, very protective about Master Tony.
I appreciate that.
So I understand.
I
understand.
appreciate
Because
that.
I think he comes from a place where he knows all the stories. He knows all the stories. A lot of people don't. So it's easy to say, yeah, unity, unity. But for us, if you don't know all the stories,
Yeah.
if you can't really go past that, you're just gonna get stuck on those old stories.
Well,
And
that
you're
was
just gonna-
my point. Then,
But I understand, where he's coming from.
no. I have empathy to, like you're saying, but my point was that, like, he sees what I'm trying to do, the goal I'm trying to achieve, to throw that in there. I mean, if I go that route, there's no point even doing it. I mean, I'm gonna keep rehashing stuff.
Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen if you rehash the past.
And that's my point to him and he wasn't getting it. So,
Yeah.
But anyhow, but no, well said, Guru Doran. Thank you. Because I got a few more minutes, guys. Guru, young Skywalker there, jumping on there, not letting me know, surprising and all that. You're San Diego. So what say you, Guru Brandon?
About well, I mean, everything that happened right now, it's a lot more just so everyone can also see that, at least in terms of like how Arnold and how Coach Arnold and I were able to get into the flow, and let's say in terms of like the communication, how we would speak to each other in terms of our movements, even though we don't really train with each other, but in terms of who he learned from his master and my master, which is my dad and Tony Diego, but how they were able to communicate with each other versus the movements and things like that. With us meeting for the first time in terms of the flow and going over the techniques, you can see how we can still are able to communicate with each other. Different dialects, you could say, but still, we can still understand each other's movements and flow. So it's a lot more of seeing that. Ideally, you pair us up with or pairing up with any person that does those three small things like that. In terms of the translation of the movement, if they do this reasonable, we should they should be able to know how to move in terms of the translation of us feeding them or them feeding us. So there's that similarity that you can say. Because if you saw in terms of how we went into our movements, sure, there's some slight differences, like different interpretation, but the overall thing of how you see it, it's basically still very similar because of the expression, how we get into it. The movement is still the same thing. But yeah, hopefully they can see that in terms of the unity and everything. It's like it's there.
No,
Hanging out, chilling, and things like that.
We should
No,
just,
I think
I think we should just, if you say, we should support each other, if you say it, you have to mean it. You say, let's support and respect each other. Put your money where your mouth is. You can't say, respect, support, and then, but this guy's like this guy's like that.
Yeah,
that doesn't. Nobody wins that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody wins.
I totally agree. And just Guro Russell, quick, just give me your thoughts real quick, and I got Jet.
I think the main majority of the squabbles that we have, in my opinion, are all misunderstandings. So I think the takeaway message, or that after the series, I would like to see people from all Cali's Ilustrisimo sections or families or lineages to just remember the master that we learned from, how they were able to get along with each other. They had their squabbles, but they were able to iron it out at the end. I would like everybody just to remember Master Tony, Master Cooper, and the current living masters. We learned from them. They were family, they were brothers, they were friends. I'm also hoping that would happen really soon. And hi, Tom.
No, thank you. And all right, guys, unfortunately, I got it, but this was absolutely wonderful. I want to thank all of you for coming on, doing this. I truly appreciate it. I'm going to download it. Of course, I'll tag all you guys and all that. You'll see it shared. But again, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you guys for doing this and jumping on here, taking time.
I just want to say it's good to see. I'm very jealous right now.
We miss you, Viko. Come on.
I'm just gonna pretend that this is you, right here.
There's no COVID here. Just kidding.
No COVID.
No. I miss all of you guys. I really do.
But all right, guys, I got a jet. But hey, thanks all of you, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks for having us, Dean.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Guys, tomorrow, Sunday, Arroceros pork.
All right.
Don't train with me.
All right, Guru. Thanks, Guru.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, that concludes part 3. Unfortunately, I'd like to talk a little bit. I got to jet. I got a private and all that. But again, thank you to those who watched, commented. Next one, I'll be mentioning, I think maybe KI Canada. We'll see. But again, those who watched, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.